What's up, NFL fans, and welcome back to another episode of The Way We See It. I'm Jeff Hartman, joined by Wesley Coleman, talking all things NFL. Wesley, what's going on, man?
Oh, nothing. Excited to see hearing reports of rookies who can throw the ball and who can catch the ball and who can run fast and stuff like that. So that's at least we're getting some NFL news. There's a lot of stuff going on with the hockey playoffs and the NBA draft, which is fun, but alas, that's not our focus today.
No, it's not. It's not our focus. We're not going to be talking about mini camp, not today. What I want to talk about is, to start off the show, an NFL trade, winning and losing an NFL trade. I feel this is very much like draft grades. Like people that want to grade a draft pick right after he's selected. Let's use the most recent trade that we can discuss. Obviously, I know it well because George Pickens got shipped from Pittsburgh to Dallas. Compensation, 2026 third-round pick, and a pick swap in 2027. Steelers get a fifth, Dallas gets a seventh. It depends on who you talk to, Wesley. Some people are like, the Steelers fleeced the Cowboys, and then the Cowboys fans are saying, I can't believe they gave him up for a third. How would you even gauge if you could claim that someone was a winner or loser of a trade?
Well, I mean, with existing players, when you're not if you don't factor in draft capital, if you're just talking about you can, I think a lot of times get close to assuming or projecting how a player would fit into a scheme. And if, I mean, for example, Pittsburgh having basically two of the same player, they did not need that. If you're putting one of those two players on a team that's drastically needing a big bodied possession receiver, I mean, you can project some of those things. I mean, obviously, I think attitude, fit, and things like that become speculation.
Yeah,
which has been speculated a lot with George Pickens. But it's I mean, there's some of that you can do for sure.
I look at it this way, and I said this publicly on many podcasts. In this specific instance, I don't think you can say anyone was the winner or got the better of the other anytime soon. Because what did they get? What did they get? So the Cowboys get a guy that's still on his rookie contract for one more year.
For one more year, yeah.
He's going to want another deal, whether it's with Dallas or not. Now, Dallas has said they're not going to pay him. He has said he wants to play out his rookie contract and get paid as a free agent. So that's what they get. And they'll potentially get a comp pick if he gets a big time deal somewhere else. The Steelers, well, what do they get? Well, they get a third round draft pick, which they could definitely turn into something. But they also get less of a headache as it pertains to dealing with that receiver on a rookie contract in the final year. There was a lot of rumors and kind of underlying talk that George Pickens might do, the hold-in stuff. Shows up, so he doesn't get fined, but he's not doing anything because he wants a new deal, and he wants that deal before the season starts, which I understand it. So the Steelers, what do they get? They get almost addition by subtraction. I don't think there's any way that any fan of the Steelers or the Cowboys could say that one team got the best of this deal. Because let's be honest, in 3 years, Wesley, we could bring up George Pickens and say, I cannot believe the Cowboys gave up a third round pick for him. Like that is a legitimate possibility. Don't you think?
Yeah, I agree. I think that some of this is going to probably play out in what next contract he gets and who that. I mean, this is one that you maybe can't grade for at least a year and a half to see what is that next contract and is it with the Cowboys.
Right.
I think that the biggest loser in this is whoever does signing to his next deal. I don't think it will be the Cowboys. I think they look at this as a 1-year deal. But also, I think the Steelers are in a weird spot in this one because they had two receivers that I don't think they could have put on the field together and been successful. But they also desperately need another wide receiver. So, sure, they got rid of a receiver because they had basically two of the same type player. But now there's a huge hole at, I don't know, second and third receiver. It's interesting. I think that this trade could, it's going to be a year and a half, I think, before we know what's happened. What is George Pickens' next contract? What kind of comp pick do the Cowboys get for that? All those kind of things are going to work out in the end.
And again, this could be We look down 2-3 years down the road, and if whether he's with Dallas or not doesn't matter. Steeler fans could be saying, "Holy cow, they traded a third round pick for this guy." Some players just can't get out of their own way. They just can't. Do I think George Pickens is in that category? I'm not sure, but it's a situation where, and again, I say it's very much like the NFL draft grades, where everyone wants to get out there and say, this team won the trade, this team lost the trade, or we're grading this draft pick compared to what this is. I think it's just too early. You agree?
Yeah, I mean, for sure. I mean, I think that right now you can compare it to, like the Commanders traded a fifth for Deebo Samuel. Now, different things factor into how much he's getting paid versus what the contract that George Pickens wants and things like that. But I think that no matter what, getting a third makes sense for the Steelers, but also giving up a third means nothing Cowboys, because you're probably going to get a third comp pick for him anyway. So it's
yeah.
I think the things we can judge it on right now, it's good for both teams, like you said.
And that's what the Steelers, they were not going to budge off a day 2 pick. And so they get a third. Now, I don't want to make this seem like there's never a trade where you could say right away that there was a winner. I'll give an example, and I'm a Steeler fan, so that's what's going to come to mind. When the Steelers sent Chase Claypool to the Chicago Bears for a second-round pick, no one, and I mean no one, thought that that was even going to be close to being an option. A second-round draft pick, that guy's not even in the NFL anymore. He bounced around practice squads. He went to, as here after Chicago, he got traded to Miami, and then I think he spent some time in Buffalo. Most recent rumors that he might be going to the CFL. They got a second-round pick, they had the first pick in the second round, which the Steelers turned into Joey Porter Jr. So I think in some instances you can see like, man, that team got fleeced, but I don't think this is one of them.
Well, and I'll tell you, I think that combination of the two, I think the Chicago Bears won on 2 trades this year, where they traded a 2026 fourth to the Chiefs for Joe Thuney, guard. They need a guard. He's going to be a good guard in Chicago. And then they traded a 2025 sixth to the Rams for Jonah Jackson, a guard. They need another guard. Mm-hmm. And you're at least Thuney's still good. Jonah Jackson, it was kind of interesting what happened with him and how he lost his position, but both of them are going to be huge upgrades on the offensive line for Caleb Williams and their new offensive court or their new head coach. So I think those are huge wins for both of them, because even the worst that Thuney and Jackson can do is a lot better than last year's Chicago Bears guard tandem.
That's true. And so I wanted to touch on that because obviously that news has been hotly debated, but I also want to talk about some other news. Today, Wednesday, when this goes out, we will be getting the full schedule release, and that's always a big deal. Should we care?
Yeah, man, we got to project how many wins we're going to get this season, and so we can know where we're drafting next year, so we can start doing 2026 mock drafts.
I know. We got
to guess. We got to guess, and then we got to guess on the next thing.
Well, let's start off with something that's already been released by the time we're recording this, and that's the international slate of games. What's your take on the international games? You like them? I mean, they're going to some new places. Last year was when they played in Brazil. They're going to Ireland. The Steelers are going to play the Minnesota Vikings in week 4 there. The Vikings are doing something which I was shocked. They're playing 2 games in back-to-back weeks overseas. They're playing in Ireland and then England before they come back. What's your take on the NFL's international push?
I mean, I like the going over there. I wish there was a better way to give a team a break after playing over there. I will say there's also, I don't know if it's even just rumored or pretty known that the first NFL game will be in Paris in 2026. Highly rumored that the Saints will be playing in that game, so I will be at that game if that happens. I've been to 2 international games. I've been to 2 of the Saints games in London. Had a great time. It's a really fun experience. I'm not sure. I'd love to know the numbers of how many Americans attend those games. I think it's a lot of fun. I have friends in the UK, including my buddy James on the Dome Patrol podcast, who every year is normally, if there's not a Saints game over there, is pretty upset about how terrible the games they get are, including this year. Also, they've changed around like the rules about season ticket holders and what games you get tickets to. And I would say that most of the people over there feel like they're getting screwed. but I keep pointing out to him that the games are all going to sell out in record time, and we're going to set merchandise records at the games. So I think we're the real football fans, because there are some real NFL fans in Europe. I think they know what they're getting and dislike it, but the average person that shows up to the game, like, they don't watch 15 games a year. They don't watch a full season of 17 games for their favorite team. They pick it up when they can and they watch it, and hey, it's fun to go to one a year. They're a fun experience, and I like the growth of the game.
So I was going to ask, what's the vibe like for those games? Because, I had, when the Steelers were announced officially that they were going to be playing a game at Croke Park in Dublin, I had one of the Steelers Ireland guys on my podcast, and he talked about how really there's not a lot of people that are interested in the NFL. Like they'll go to the game, at least in Ireland, there isn't. And they'll go to the game and they'll find it interesting, but they're really the NFL is trying to, infiltrate some of these areas that are, they're worried about other sports, they're worried about soccer, football over there. What was it like over there though, with all those fans? Was it just kind of people that didn't really know what was going on, or were most of the fans glued in and knew the rules and they knew everything? And what was your takeaway from that?
Yeah, I think they know what's going on, and it's a blast to attend. You're going to have, a couple of teams that have the greater majority of jerseys, but all 32 teams are going to be represented. But rather than going to like a regular NFL home game where you're quiet when you're on offense or you're yelling when you're on defense or vice versa, it's loud the whole time. It's fun the whole time. There is every single play, whether it's a good offensive or defensive play, there's cheering and excitement and fun. And so it makes for a fun environment. Just like, you've been to sporting events where you weren't necessarily rooting for either team. You're just like, I just want to see some fun and, something crazy happen. And that's a lot of fun. So it's more like a concert where everybody's celebrating everything versus truly having a rooting interest. And it's not like it's quiet and it's just like, you'd see some sporting events like that come out of Japan where they consider it disrespectful to scream sometimes. And so it's just quiet, and it's not like that. It's fun the whole time. They're singing songs, they're doing chants. I think it's a really fun environment.
That sounds awesome. That sounds like it'd be fun to go check out. Now let's continue with the schedule discussion. I want to ask you, when you look at I can only speak for myself. When the Steelers schedule is released, the first thing I look for every single year, when's the bye week? Where do you prefer, at least? Because I've always said there's never been a bad bye week, but you do have your preferences. Where's your preference for the Saints bye week?
Yeah, so if we're throwing out like the international game and stuff like that, like if we're like, because I want to buy after that. I really, now with an 18-week schedule, I really want it around like week 13. Okay. I don't want it right in the middle. I think we can kind of go on. But if you're getting good reset point, if you're fixing to make a run for the playoff push and stuff like that, if you've got people that have gotten injured earlier in the year, that might be a good time that they're trying to work back and have a couple weeks off to get reintegrated. So I'm a later, not completely end of the season, but later half week, maybe 12, 13, 14, something like that. What about you? Do you have a preference? Does it matter?
I'm always looking for the middle of the season. Last year is week 9, and that just seemed to fit. Every year, there's players that are banged up. You're like, man, bye came at a perfect time. I do hate the early bye week. So the fact that the Steelers play in Ireland in week 4 tells me, and I do believe, correct me if I'm wrong, and you might know, don't teams that play international games get to choose whether they have their bye week the week after or not? So the Steelers could take a bye in week 5, or they could say, no, we'll be fine. We're going to come back. We'll probably play a home game in Pittsburgh. And that flight actually from Ireland to Pittsburgh is not as crazy as you'd think. And then take a bye later. But I really wouldn't want to see a week 5 bye. That's way too early for me.
Yeah. It's kind of, you don't want to get in a hole, especially in y'all's division. So like, you don't want to be tired and run into like a 2 or 3 game losing streak because of that. So, but I agree. The Saints did it a couple years ago when they had I think it was week 5 when we went over to London, and they chose not to have the bye week in week 6. It may have been week 4 that we went to London, but and they chose not to as well. I will say that like we thought it was a good idea, and then we hated it when it actually happened. I mean, it depends on if you win or lose the game after. If you win the game, okay, thank God we didn't take the bye week. If you lose, you're like, these idiots, you got the option to take the bye week and you didn't take it. What's wrong with you?
All I'm hoping for is that it's funny that in 2013, the Steelers played the Vikings in London in week 4. And the Steelers, mind you, awful job with travel. They didn't travel to England until Friday. And so they go
Terrible.
to
That hardly ever works.
awful. Meanwhile, the Minnesota Vikings got over there as soon as they could. They got their bodies acclimated, and you could tell when you were watching them play. Minnesota had their legs underneath them. The Steelers looked like they were running in quicksand. So I'm really hoping this year, going back to the international games, that the Steelers learn from that experience and they travel over earlier, get themselves ready, get themselves. There's going to be a lot of hoopla and stuff. But I want to ask you about divisional games. We have heard that the kickoff game is going to be Thursday. It's going to be Eagles and Cowboys. I'm going to be honest with you. Not only are we going to be bludgeoned to death by the Philadelphia Eagles this year in prime time, but other than that, I really don't like the divisional game there. I just don't. I want those games at the end. You want to put them towards the end? It's fine. What's your take on the divisional games?
I mean, I do like. I mean, you got to play them twice, so I do like starting and ending with them. I think that one, I think it helps the familiarity with the opponent helps those first few weeks worth of games actually maybe be good games, because we've seen seasons where the first couple weeks you're like, oh my god, what are these teams doing? So I do like that if you have that familiarity, maybe there'll be better games, more competitive games, because you're kind of know what the opponent's typically going to do. I will say too, I think we're going to get bludgeoned by the entire NFC East besides the Giants this year. The Commanders, the Eagles, and the Cowboys are just always going to be a prime time. We're going to see a lot of those three teams all throughout the year in primetime games. I think it's going to be just ridiculous.
Awful.
Hopefully the Cowboys finish last.
All right. I want to talk about, this is what I teased last week, and I'll give everyone an idea as to where this stemmed from. So I was on Twitter, as I often am, and I was watching, this was last week, the San Diego Padres were playing a game, and Fernando Tatis got ejected from a game, and then their manager comes out and he's ripping the umpire a new one, and the umpire kicks him out of the game. They end up going on a 4-run rally and come back and win the baseball game. And there's a part of me that when I was thinking about where sports seem to be trending from a rules perspective, from the way it's with the way they oversee it, they're trying to remove the human element of the game. You think about in baseball, they want to have the strike zone and the pitcher can challenge it. And if it hits the strike zone, it's a strike or whatever. We talk about in football, the first down and where the ball is actually spotted and placed. I feel like I'm all for getting it right, but I feel like you still need a human element in these games. I wanted to get your take on that. What do you think?
Man, I want there's so much money right on it, and passion and all that. I want the calls to be correct, more than anything. So one, I think that there should be a natural first step before going to, necessarily all computer referees and umpires, and it's having the best people there. And I'm sorry, but most of these sports, when we have 55, 60, 65-year-old people being the umpires, that's not, they don't get down the field the best. They don't see the best. They're not going to be as quick with decisions. I'm just sorry. It's natural. Now, again, it becomes really tough to find 25 and 30-year-olds that you can trust who aren't, a fan of a team or, willing to be influenced by gambling, which all of them are. So, and that being the other part, the gambling part of it, that's always going to have some sort of rumors. It will always creep back into into every sport at some point of, is somebody getting paid off to make a call, to do this, to keep a game close? I think that the computer element, I want the calls to be correct. And I want to be able to trust that there's not a conspiracy theory. There's conspiracy theories a whole lot about who does the NFL or who do the other sport organizations, who do they want to win? Who do they want to be traded, and where do they want them to be traded to? Let's get rid of that.
Yeah. Well, and, for those that are listening, you can't see, Wesley's wearing a Dallas Stars hat, and the NHL playoffs they're really it's been a really great playoffs, to be honest with you, just
Incredible.
across the league. The one thing I've always hated, though, and this is the same way in the NBA, really too, is that I hate how in hockey the game is officiated differently in the postseason than it is in the regular season. And you will see, especially if you get into the third quarter of a very close game in the NHL, though you'll hear the announcers say, well, these refs have put their whistles away. They're just going to let them play. Well, wait a second. What do you mean they're just going to let them play? But again, this is the human element. But at the same time, you're asking if it's a trip in the first period or if it's a trip in the final week of the regular season, how is it not a trip in a very critical moment of a playoff game or a high stick or a cross check in the back of the head? Like whatever it is, they just let up. They're just going to let them play. We're putting the whistles away. I hate that. I really, really hate that. And that's what kind of all intertwines here with the human element. And you want to get it right. But some of these in the NBA, man, they've been killing each other in the postseason compared to you see the clip ups of LeBron flopping like a soccer player. It's pretty funny, but still, I don't know. It's frustrating on a lot of fronts for me.
So, I mean, on both sides. So, one, in hockey, I love playoff hockey. And if they let them play in the regular season, nobody would make it to the playoffs. Like, they're killing each other out there. So I understand in hockey, and it's kind of just known. And one thing I'll just say is whether it's a good call, bad call, somebody hurt in hockey, they can disagree with the penalty. They get their ass up and they go to the penalty box. There's not, I was thinking about the other day, if this was an NBA game, they'd be running all around the court, screaming, I can't believe, like, technical this, free then they're still bitching. And so go to your box. I can't hear your voice anymore. And that's one thing in hockey, there's bad calls. That guy stands up and skates to that box and he's pissed about it. He doesn't agree with it. And we see the coach pissed. But you know what? They drop the puck 30 seconds later.
Yep.
And I love the fact that we don't have that crap in hockey. Now, also on the other side of it, it's the one thing, and there's multiple things, but the one reason 100% that you can never make a solid case about LeBron James being the best basketball player of all time is that if you watched what Michael Jordan lived through in the whole season and then also in the playoffs, it was a hockey game a lot of times.
Yep.
And crazy stuff going on with, I mean, just it was so physical and they wouldn't blow whistles at all. And it's the way that game was played back then. And I kind of understand. I'm glad that at least the NBA does fix it a little bit for the playoffs. But yeah, the NBA regular season game, it's really tough to watch unless it's a team, the actual team that I care about. I just can't randomly turn on a regular season NBA game and enjoy it because there's so much of the flopping and bitching, and it's just like it's not for me a true sports fan to enjoy.
So talking about the human element, you wanted to bring up another aspect of it, and we've talked about this. The human element of the National Football League, it goes beyond officiating. It goes beyond there is an element of this game which is unique, and in the world of the New Orleans Saints, I mean, they had a pretty news rocked their fan base, maybe not rocked the fan base, but Derek Carr decides to retire, and you know what he does? He basically gives back a lot of money. I think that's interesting. Why don't you talk about that?
He did, and maybe. I mean, he has so far.
Maybe.
Hey, when after June 2nd, he unretires and is able to sign with whatever team he wants and didn't have surgery and his shoulder's okay, and you're supporting him playing for your Pittsburgh Steelers. There's still a lot of unanswered things. And Derek Carr has not been necessarily the friendliest person to the city of New Orleans, and we have not had a good relationship with him. And everything about the way he's acting, the way he said, and even the way he left the Raiders, it does not make sense that he would walk away from $30 million in any way. Nothing about his attitude but right now, and it could stick with it, that's what he's done. And I think that if it's a real thing, like it did buy him some grace with the city of New Orleans, who was like hoping that he never would be in the city again. It's like, okay, well, that's if he did it and really is never going to play football again, it's a pretty solid decision for him to say, no, you don't owe me this money. It's not the right thing for me to take it because I'm truly not going to play this sport anymore. There's so many questions and for stuff to play out, but I mean, he was vilified. I mean, this whole offseason, the way that it's been handled and everything, and people hoping for him to be cut or fired, and here he is. For all right now, intents and purposes, he did the team and the fan base a solid that we've never seen done in sports before.
Yeah. Well, I've heard that the person leading the charge on social media had to handle that Who Dat Wesley 13. So, he had to get up in front of his congregation and tell you to stop it until you finally listen. So I appreciate you for doing that.
To be fair, he blocked me on Twitter a long time ago, so he has no idea what I say on Twitter.
You got blocked by Derek.
Michael Thomas had some construction person like annoying him outside of his house and wouldn't leave. So Michael Thomas picked up a brick and threw it through their windshield or into their windshield. And I posted on Twitter, Michael Thomas throws bricks better than Derek Carr throws slants. I didn't tag him in it. So the only way he would have seen it is if this sensitive puppy is searching himself on Twitter, seeing what people are saying about him. Like, it didn't go viral. It's not like somebody sent it to him, but I couldn't believe it. I was completely shocked. It was pretty funny.
Ian Rappaport blocked me a long time ago. And people will send me stuff. It's like, I can't see this because he blocked me. This goes back to when Ben Roethlisberger was having his off-field issues. And he kept on saying, he's going to the Raiders. He's going to the Raiders. It's like, he's not going to the Raiders. He might go somewhere. Turns out it could have been San Francisco, but he's not going to the Raiders. And I kept on saying, dude, stop. Like, you're ridiculous. And hey, he sees it because he blocked me, but that's neither here nor there. All right, I want to finish this show up with a little fun discussion. You were talking before we hit record about how the Dallas Mavericks, they won the lottery. They won the draft lottery. They get the number 1 overall pick.
1.8% chance.
Sure. We'll use air quotes there with that 1.8%. And there are some people out there that think that the NFL should go the way of the NHL and the NBA in terms of everyone that finishes with a certain record or the bottom parts of the league, you get put into the draft lottery. I'm not for this. What say you? Do you think the NFL should go this way?
Well, before I answer, are you not for it because your team has a winning record every year?
Pretty much.
It seems like you would be for it. It would be the one chance for y'all to get into the top 10. Y'all win so many games. It would be your only route into the top 10.
Yeah, I get it. Well, what is the criteria for those that don't know? What's the criteria to even get a lottery ball as an option? Yeah,
so it's the teams who make the playoffs don't get one. So the top 14 teams have a shot. And so, I know that teams 11 through 14, you can only finish in the top 4 or in 11 through 14. That 5 through 8 range is the top 8 teams have to be in the top 8. So it's or you can only fall down 4 spots if you're okay. It's a weird thing. And truly the Dallas Mavericks had a 1.8% chance, and just it's insane. But I don't want it for the NFL in 2026 because I think the Saints actually might earn the number 1 overall draft pick. But it's starting in 2027. I'm all for it. It's fun. It's exciting. It leads to more of the speculation of interference. I would not want it in the NFL. And for an 18-game season or 17-game season, 18-week season, I want all 17 games to be incredibly important. And I love the story at the end of the year where every year some coach that's about to be fired wins a game that knocks his team from 1st to 3rd or 4th. Or 2nd to 5th or whatever. It is a great fun story at the end of the year. And if anything, I wonder if it starts getting coaches fired in week 16 instead of after week 18, because you're just going to get some lame duck coach who's fighting for pride or wants to screw you over.
Yeah. That's a really interesting point. I mean, people think the owner down in Miami, I forget his name, but when he was telling, in 2019, 2020-ish, that was back when he was telling the coach, hey, lose games.
Brian Flores.
Flores.
Yeah.
I will incentivize you losing games. And he wouldn't do it because he couldn't, because he's a prideful man. But still, it's like, I'm surprised more owners don't do that. Hey, we need as high a draft pick as possible. If you win games, you're going to lose money. If you lose games, I'm going to make it worth your while. I just don't. I'll say you this. The best shot that the NFL has of going to a lottery system is the fact that they would drum this thing up. The lottery would be a spectacle. Who gets the top pick? I mean, it would be must-watch TV, and they never turn down an opportunity for that. So, I don't know, man. Let's finish this up. What's your final thoughts here, Wesley, as we head into kind of the lull? We'll get the schedule today, and we'll talk about that, I'm sure, next week. But what's everything looking like for you?
Yeah, so I'm enjoying the lull right now. I'm gonna watch Cooper Flag highlights in between Dallas Stars hockey games. Really exciting time with, again, we talked about the hockey playoffs, but the Stars, Mikko Rantanen's having like one of the greatest, or really close to being the greatest playoff run that there's been. There definitely in 40 years there has not been anything like this. And then Miro Heiskanen, one of the best defensive players in hockey, hasn't played in 3.5 months, is maybe gonna play Tuesday night. So I'm enjoying this. My lull is filled right now, and I'm kind of enjoying it. LSU is the number 1 ranked college baseball team. LSU softball is the number 10 ranked team. We got the playoffs all starting there, and some super regionals coming up. So I'm actually enjoying my sports life right now, even without the NFL. But I do want to see some more stuff coming out with we got a few more players to sign out there. We hear about some little surgeries getting cleaned up. I think after June 1st, there's going to be a few players signed into July. So we'll still keep a little bit of NFL news. What about you? How are you filling your dead time until the Aaron Rodgers signing or Derek Carr signing? Of course. Or maybe both. You could get both.
Hey, what the hell? Hey, the more the merrier. I mean, for me, it's the second major. This weekend's the second major of the season. PGA Championship, Quail Hollow. It's going to be a lot of fun. I love these major tournaments. I really hate how they restructured everything and they have one a month. They should have a little bit more time in between. But I'm just enjoying golf. I enjoy picking golf and talking about golf, and so that's how I'm filling my lull. So
you got Rory or you got Scotty?
I got Scotty. He's the odds-on favorite at plus 450 last I saw, but I've got him as my outright winner. But I really like Justin Thomas to be top 5. He's played well there. He's won there, PGA Championship at Quail Hollow. So if you're looking for some extra plays there, I really like Justin Thomas top 5. Xander Schauffele top 10. You want to parlay those together, you can make yourself some money.
I think Koepka makes a good little run at the top 5 here.
I think he's done.
Yeah.
I just don't think he has it anymore. Those guys, like, when they went to live, most of them just got neutered, and they just don't have I don't know. We'll see. John Rahm's plus 1,800. He's in the top 5 for odds on favorite. We'll see if he's got 400 million in his bank account. He doesn't care. So, all right, Wesley, man, thanks for your time as always. We'll talk next week. Take it easy.
Have a great week.